Hey there folks, welcome back, and today was the British Grand Prix. I was lucky to be joined by a good friend Kanav, who supplied drinks of LH44 Monster Energy, so that we were #blessed, and spoiler alert, at the end of the race we got to hear the 4 words every F1 fan really wants to hear, every one of the best fans that is, which is get in there Lewis. But let's talk about the race, and let's talk about a couple of details about it. So, first off, it was actually quite a good race. I don't really need to talk about the rich energy drama. I did that in another video. If you want to watch that, you can check it out in the description below. And I don't really need to talk about it because, well, they crashed in the first lap and they were pretty much out of it. Actually, they had both retired, I believe, by the end of the first 10 laps. But apart from that, it was actually quite an interesting race, even for a while up at the front. We saw Bottas and Hamilton continuing the kind of scrap that we saw yesterday, and if you're interested in seeing how Bottas got into pole by 6 thousandths of a second, check out the qualifying breakdown on Formula One's official channel, because you see there are essentially 2 areas where Bottas managed to make massive gains, which was the village section and the sort of Brooklands Luffield section at the start of Sector 2. Those both kind of gained around 4 tenths of a second that he relatively lost around the rest of the lap. But getting back to talk about the race, it was nice to see the scrap between Ferrari and Red Bull. Of course, now Honda versus Ferrari power unit instead of Ferrari versus Renault. And it gave us some serious 2012 vibes, apart from the fact that, you know, it wasn't a battle for first place, it was a battle for the not Mercedes step at the podium. And it was nice scraps to be seen. We saw, at first, it was Verstappen and Leclerc. And then later on it was kind of Verstappen and Vettel, which I'll talk about in a second, and Leclerc and Gasly. Now, let's start off talking about these kinds of incidents with the safety car period. So the safety car period essentially turned the race into a one-stop race, so it didn't work to the advantage of Leclerc, Verstappen or Bottas. I think Bottas was probably the worst off from it because of the fact that he set out to make another stop and it messed up his strategy compared to Lewis's. Lewis was able to make a one-stop work from there. And then, in comparison, we ended up with Vettel making some gains as well, being there in the right place at the right time. After the restart, we had the first battle that Verstappen got in with Leclerc. I mean, we had some kind of scraps towards the start of the race, but this was quite interesting. We saw Verstappen somewhat be able to get away with going around the outside of Leclerc, and this was something that I was very interested by, because Leclerc was able to push Verstappen somewhat out, similar to what we saw in Austria. It's good to see this kind of racing, and as much as I thought that there was reason for an initial investigation after Austria, of course, in the video I said, and you can check that out in the description below as well, that if you analysed it and saw that Verstappen was fully turning in and not actually flexing Leclerc out, there wasn't grounds for a penalty. It was nice to see that kind of rough racing. It's good to know that now we have this kind of area in F1 where you can have this rough racing. But I do think that Verstappen to some degree gained an advantage without overtaking the final corner, because he was somewhat pushed off the track and able to use the tarmac to gain an advantage. Though of course later on we'd see the incident with Vettel, and well, this is the thing that I'm going to have to talk about, isn't it? This is the big one that I'm going to have to talk about for this race. And well, I can't actually say, well, Verstappen should have moved out of the way, because at the end of the day, Vettel did deserve the penalty. At the end of the day, I do also think it was somewhat a racing incident, because essentially what happened was they were both moving across under braking. They were both moving under braking to get out of each other's way and to take the racing lines. But Vettel shouldn't have been braking so late, because that was going to be an accident anyway, and he locked up. So penalty was deserved. 10-second penalty. To be fair, I thought that Vettel had been punished enough by the fact that he'd really damaged the car from it. But I could see why there was a penalty anyway. And then we ended up seeing Verstappen manage to drag the car around for still a solid P5 in the end. Gasly got P4, inherited that, and that's equaling his best finish in F1 undoubtedly one of the most challenging points in his career, where everyone's saying, is he going to get dropped? Is he going to end up getting rotated around in the F1 program for Red Bull, much like Verstappen and Kvyat were? Also people like Antonio Liuzzi, who was actually one of the people investigating the incident between Verstappen and Vettel. I think it's good for him. I think this is a good boost for Pierre, and I think it was a brilliant weekend for him. But what do I think now about what's going on with Vettel? Because obviously he was off the pace in qualifying. In the race, he did an alright start. He actually had quite a good early stage, but this crash is now bringing to a close a year which has been full of all these kinds of incidents for him. Which include things such as Germany last season. You've also got, say, Suzuka, Austin, Bahrain. It just seems to keep going on. Now, I like Vettel. I like him as a person. And I think he's one of the characters that F1 really kind of needs, because he's not doing any of the social media stuff. And it's a shame to see this kind of thing happening to a driver. Again, it's similar to what I said about Grosjean last year. It's similar to what I'm saying about Gasly now. But I hope that he can take some kind of break over the summer and get into a good mindset again. Because I don't want to see him being forced out of Ferrari and forced out of the sport, or feeling like he needs to retire now. I feel like this is just a bad phase for him, and he should be able to get around it and get over into the next phase. Then again, I don't really know. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. And now I just want to wrap this up with one other point. Today's race, I watched the Channel 4 broadcast. There's a simple reason for that. It's the fact that it was on terrestrial TV. And that was a big deal for me. F1 should still be on free-to-air TV in the UK. And the fact that it isn't is really annoying. It's really irritating, and it's a deal that was pretty much one of the remnants of the Bernie era of let's get more money into F1 and let's not care how we do that. I don't know what the viewership figures are for today, but I hope that Channel 4 outperformed Sky. And the reason why is because as much as there should be a right to competition, there should always be both of them with live broadcasting deals. And not just one race a season for Channel 4. Don't even mind if it goes back to the half season thing, but I do want there to be a kind of competition where both of them have got a lot of live races. And that's been my thoughts on the issue for years. But either way, I think it's time to wrap it up because I've been talking for so long. It's another alright win for Lewis today, but realistically I do think Charles deserved the driver of the day. So on that note, just want to say thank you all so much for watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you'll stick around. If you want to hear more about me for F1 or any kind of motorsport really, I'm doing a lot of running stuff as well. You can subscribe, you can hit the notification icon to be alerted about my kind of daily uploads. Some of them are more kind of political, some of them are more music based. I do some streaming in games such as F1 and Richburns Rally, so you can do that. If you like this, let me know. If you want to have your say, go into the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.